What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what's going on with other factors involving the market, so what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. Deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just about a couple of weeks. Anyways, for NIO, right now, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure that is developing, and NIO has earnings in just a couple of days. So overall, there's a very good chance that this could actually try to get a big bounce once we retest our 200 EMA. So I'm going to watch to see how NIO ends up performing right over here, if we end up holding the support or not. And that's going to be key for how we end up moving, in my personal opinion. I'm also going to be breaking down more details about SPY and others. Let me just first talk about the markets. So I just want to make it very clear. Tomorrow is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. In the US, we have some very, very important data coming out. 15 minutes after the stock market opens, we have the S&P Global Composite PMI and Global Services data coming out. This data is going to be key for what ends up happening with the current opinions about the markets, the current gauges of our economy, and we're going to be looking to see what happens with the services data. And then we also have new orders, prices, and employment. Just know that the ISM services, new orders, and prices are two important factors for inflation, and they're very, very forward-looking data, which is going to give us a good understanding of how the market is looking, at least moving forward. So that's going to be key for how we end up moving. So make sure you watch that very carefully and look for some high volatility for the first 15 and 30 minutes after the market ends up opening tomorrow. On top of this, when it comes to earnings, okay, I want to make it very clear that for tomorrow being Wednesday, we have Dollar Tree in the morning and then a few others, not to mention Charge Point after the market closes. For Thursday, we also have NIO announcing its earnings before the market opens. That's going to be very key for how things end up progressing. And that's going to be key for what we end up seeing moving forward. So that's going to be key for how we end up seeing NIO progress. And approaching this earnings, we could see a little pop on NIO, in my personal opinion, as long as we get a bounce at a particular level. Now, for more data, right now, the fear and greed index is a little bit on the fearful side. We saw the market dip a bit before getting bought back up. And I still don't think this matters much because I think the market will still get bought back up later on. And there's more upside potential as the month progresses. Market momentum is currently on greed. Greed is making up the majority of sentiment. We also happen to have the puts and call option positioning still back to neutral. So it was fearful. Now it's back to neutral as we're starting to see this dip again. And this is important because we're seeing more puts being closed and more hedging with lots of shares being bought. And then on top of this, we also have the VIX potentially tipping down to fill its gap. That is once again going to be correlated with the market potentially pushing higher. For NIO, we got some data coming out for the final week 22 of the year. This is basically going to show us what happened between, the very, very end of May going into the first 2 days of June for deliveries. And NIO did very, very well. They did just under 7,000 deliveries for that period. That's showing, once again, very strong numbers as we approach the month of June. And that's going to be very, very good, at least for earnings moving forward. So I'm very excited to see what NIO ends up announcing during this next earnings report. And it's going to be key for how things end up moving for it. On top of this, there's been some talk about how NIO is providing an average of 68,000 battery swap services per day in May, which is absolutely astronomical. And they're continuing to do so because their business model is working very well, at least in China. And for now, they've provided over 2.11 million battery swap services in total, which is absolutely incredible in my personal opinion. So that's actually not in total for May, not of all time, just for the month of May itself. And they're actually able to do this in about 1.26 seconds. So that's very, very incredible, faster than the time it takes us to like fill gas tanks and such. So that's very important and really shows how much they're actually moving. So that's very, very awesome. And right now, 80% of NIO owners can find a battery swap station about 3 kilometers away from their home or office, according to reports. Very, very awesome news for them. We only have 30 million in volume, so volume is kind of slowing down a bit. And the next catalyst is going to be its earnings, just to see what they end up announcing. That's going to be a make or break, in my personal opinion. Short volume is going down as we're seeing some shorts being closed, and Bank of America Securities maintains their neutral rating. Historically, Wednesdays tend to be one of the strongest days of the week, as we're green 56% of the time. And also, we tend to see more volatility at 1 p.m. and also during the final hour of the day. So that being said, what do I see for NIO moving forward? Honestly, guys, the share price has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. If we dip a little bit, I think we're going to dip a little bit more tomorrow. It's about 5.13, but we could get a bounce off our 200 EMA. If we lose this, we're going to be looking for a dip all the way down to this imbalance at 4.9. If we end up bouncing off this, we're going to be looking for a big break all the way up to basically the $6 area if we end up getting that move. So with this nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, the 4 hour is looking like we have a nice pattern that's developing. But I want to make it very clear that we have to get that bounce. So we need, excuse me, we need to watch for that just for confirmation moving forward. I personally think that NIO is going to dip a little bit as the most likely possibility is 5.13 area. Then we're going to be looking for a very, very nice bounce, and we could be pushing closer to 6 once that bounce comes. I find that to be the most likely possibility, so we'll see how things go moving forward. For SPY, in my personal opinion, is also trying to uptrend right over here. The chart is clearly bullish. We dropped, made a new high down here, made a higher low. We went up once again, retesting the high. It looks very bullish. I think we're easily going to the 530s very soon. Now, we might dip again. We like to dip and then bounce. That's like the trend from Friday. Also on Monday and Tuesday, we got a dip and bounce. It happened 3 days in a row. So we might get a little dip tomorrow. 526 might be tested. Another bounce back up towards the 530 area. So I'm still anticipating upside for a nice little push, and I expect there to be more and more buyers stepping in. For Nvda, we're breaking all-time highs again. It's looking bullish on the 4 hour. I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of dip a little bit tomorrow morning to retest 1156, then we continue higher towards 1180 and higher levels like that. For Tesla, in my personal opinion, is currently at this 175 area. If we lose the support, I'll be looking at 173, and then there's a gap to fill below there. If we bounce off this, we have resistance currently at 176, and I want to make it very clear that right now we have a head and shoulders like structure. There's a little bit of weakness on Tesla stock if we lose 173, but ultimately I'm still bullish because of this inverse head and shoulders that is developing. So even if Tesla does dip to 173, if we lose that and go down to 168, it's going to be fine. There's an inverse head and shoulders developing, and this could still lead to a big push to the 200s very, very soon. But for confirmation, I want to see it close above 180. If we do achieve that, then yes, it's going to be a good sign for Tesla. We're just waiting to see if that ends up happening. So for Tesla, we're range bound so far, by the way. We're stuck between 173 to 174 as our support area, and our resistance is around 180 and also at 178. So we're kind of stuck within that range, basically in the 170s. We haven't been able to exit this for quite some time, so we have to give this some time. Are we about to get a rug pull and come down to fill this gap, or are we about to get a big bounce? We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, I do see potential for it longer term. For the QQQ, we're getting a bullish cross on the PPO. I wouldn't be surprised if we dip again tomorrow to about the 453.26 area. Then we bounce and start pushing for 455 plus. I anticipate more upside for this. For Apple, we're looking more bullish, continuing to break out towards 195. I think we're going to be testing that again and continuing to break out to 196 plus. We're looking more bullish. For a few more, Coinbase is looking bullish, trying to break out to 245. We'll see if it breaks that or not, but it does have potential. And if we do so, this imbalance will take us all the way up to about the 250 area. So it looks more bullish to me. For Amazon, we're looking more bullish. If we continue to push, the 4 hour is kind of showing us that 180 is a potential target. So that looks more bullish in my personal opinion and like a potential target. Meta, to me, it looks like 480 is going to likely come, and I think there's a very good chance that we're going to be approaching that level as well. So we'll just have to see how things go from there. But with that being said, there is more upside potential for all these different stocks, and for NIO, we have a bullish looking pattern. We'll just have to watch for confirmation if that ends up being the case. If we dip, watch 5.13 as our support. We could dip a little bit lower. If we lose that, we could turn back to bearish and start dipping down to 4.92 if we lose 5.13. But if we bounce off 5.13, I think we're going to start pushing back up, approaching the $6 area. We have a bullish pattern approaching earnings, so hopefully this is not a trap, and hopefully we get a big bounce. I do hope we get a big bounce tomorrow, so maybe we dip down here, then we start bouncing as soon as tomorrow / approaching earnings. So that's the most likely possibility looking at this pattern, and we'll see how things go. With that being said, guys, get ready for one more free day of trading. Then we have NIO's earnings coming out very soon on Thursday. That's going to be key for how we end up moving, so get ready. With that being said, thank you for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. I'll see you guys very, very soon with that being the case. All right. Thank you for listening, and peace out.